Hello everyone, welcome to the Techni Tomato channel. Today we're going to talk about a less technical topic. If I asked you which dynasty killed the most people in China, what would you think? It is said that social civilization is constantly progressing, and it should be from the earlier dynasties. Unfortunately, the answer is the Qing Dynasty. In the 276-year history of this dynasty, which is closest to modern times, dozens of large-scale and brutal massacres occurred. This is a heavy but real historical topic that cannot be escaped. History begins with seeking truth and ends with seeking goodness. Without the process of seeking truth, it is impossible to reach the end of goodness. The Qing Dynasty is the last dynasty in China. It has a history of 2,036 years since Huang Taiji proclaimed himself emperor in 1630 and established the Qing Dynasty. The wars that changed dynasties in Chinese history often brought horrific massacres, famines, and other tragedies. However, during the founding war of the Manchu and Qing dynasties, historical records recorded far more massacres than those in the previous Ming, Yuan, and Song dynasties. According to documented evidence, there have been at least 10 massacres in which more than 50,000 people were killed. Let us take stock of the top 10 massacres in the history of the Qing Dynasty, with more than 100,000 victims. The 10th ranked massacre was the Tongan Massacre, which occurred in Tongan, Fujian, a district in Xiamen City, Fujian Province today. In the 5th year of Shunji, that is, in 1648, the Qing army attacked Tongan, and Zheng Chenggong's reinforcements were blocked due to unfavorable wind direction. After the city of Tongan was captured, the Qing army massacred the city and about 50,000 people were killed. Ranked 9th, known as the Guanyin disaster in history, it occurred in Guangzhou City, Guangdong Province, in the 6th year of Shunji, that is, 1649, King Pingnan Shang-Kexi led the Qing troops to conquer Guangdong southward. In February of the 7th year of Shunji, the city of Guangzhou was captured and then a 10-day massacre was carried out against the Guangzhou residents who defended the city. More than 100,000 people died. Hey folks! Please note that starting from the 9th massacre, the number of victims has exceeded 100,000. In other words, in the year 276 of the Qing Dynasty, there were at least 8 tragedies in which more than 100,000 people died. Ranked 8th is the Nanchang Massacre, which also occurred in the 6th year of Shunji, that is, 1640. The Qing army fought from north to south, captured Nanchang, and then massacred the city, massacring civilians and surrendering more than 100,000 soldiers. Number 7, the Massacre of Jinan took place in today's Jinan City, Shandong Province. In the 6th year of Chongde, that is, in 1642 AD, Dorgan led the Qing army and massacred about 20,000 people in Jinan City. Careful viewers may notice that the previous 3 massacres all occurred during the Shunji period, and this one occurred during the Chongde period, which was during the reign of Huang Taiji, the first emperor of the Qing Dynasty. Number 6, the Jiangyin Massacre occurred in Jiangyin City, Jiangsu Province, in the 2nd year of Shunji, that is, 1645 AD. After the Qing Dynasty issued a haircutting order, the people of Jiangyin staged an uprising against the Qing Dynasty. The Qing army suppressed, and after the city was broken, the Qing army massacred the city. Documents record the number of people killed ranging from more than 10,000 to hundreds of thousands, with the generally accepted figure being 50,000. Number 5. The Hunan army massacred the city of Nanjing. In July 1864, Zheng Guoquan, the younger brother of Zheng Shofan, the leader of the Hunan army of the Qing Dynasty, led his army to conquer the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom in Tianjin, which is today's Nanjing. After that, he set fire to, massacred, and looted, killing about 300,000 civilians in total. This massacre is the only one in this program that occurred after the Opium War in the 19th century, only 160 years ago. According to the classification of Chinese history, it belongs to a modern history. In the modern history of China, there were 2 massacres in which more than 100,000 people were killed. This is one of them, and it is people of this ethnic group who massacre people of their own ethnic group. Today, some people regard the butcher Zheng Guofan as a saint. I am really speechless. And the 4th place, the Zhongar people were exterminated. The time was from 1755 to 1751, and the location was Xinjiang. The murderers were the Qing army under Qianlong's rule. The victims were the Zhongar tribe of the Mongolian ethnic group. The massacre was estimated to be 500,000 people. This was the only large-scale massacre in the Qing Dynasty that occurred in the 18th century. The 18th century was the middle period of the Qing Dynasty's rule. Except for the literary prison, the political situation was relatively stable. The 3rd place, Jiading Santu, means 3 consecutive massacres. Thus, the time was June 1645. The location was Jiading, Jiangsu Province, today's Jiading District, Shanghai, and 500,000 people died. In the 2nd year of Shunji and the 1st year of Hongguang in the southern Ming Dynasty, in 1645 AD, after the Qing army captured Jiading, General Li Chengdong, who was originally a general of Li Chuang's army, surrendered to the Ming Dynasty and surrendered to the Qing Dynasty, then rebelled against the Qing Dynasty and returned to the Ming Dynasty, led his troops who were also loyal to Deshun. The troops ordered the massacre of civilians in the city 3 times. During the massacre, the people in the city either committed suicide by hanging from beams or threw themselves into wells or rivers. People whose hands and feet were cut off were struggling on the ground. Li Chengdong's army drove a large number of escaped people to the river and then drove them into the river. They drowned one after another, and the water in the river could no longer flow. Every time they met someone, the occupying forces forced them to give up the treasures in their homes. If they gave a lot of things, they could survive. If they didn't give much, or if they were not satisfied, they would kill the person directly. Number 2, Yangzhou 10th. The death toll reached a new high, reaching 800,000. Speaking of this, I feel heavy-hearted. Facing the historical truth is indeed a terrible thing. But if we don't seek truth, how can we avoid it happening again in the future? Closer to home, in the 2nd year of Shunji and the 1st year of Hongguang in the southern Ming Dynasty, in 1645 XD, the Qing army captured Yangzhou city and massacred the civilians in the city. At that time, the non-Ming general Shi Kefa resisted the Qing army. On the 25th day of the 4th lunar month of that year, after the Qing army captured Yangzhou, heavy rain poured down, and Duduo announced a massacre in Yangzhou city. 10 Diaries of Yangzhou, written by Wang Xiuchu, a survivor at that time, records that the massacre lasted for 5 days. 10 Diaries of Yangzhou records that after the Qing army captured Yangzhou city, it carried out a 5-day massacre. More than 800,000 corpses were collected by monks in the city. The first place is probably the most horrific massacre in Chinese history. Zhang Xianzhong massacred Shu, which in modern Chinese terms means massacre of Sichuan people. The time was between 1644 and 1681, mainly in Sichuan areas such as Chengdu and Chongqing. The population of Sichuan dropped sharply to 1/10 in the late Ming and early Qing dynasties, which was the final result of the melee between multiple forces. Although Zhang Xianzhong was not the only culprit, he was still one of the culprits in the massacre of Sichuan. In the sixth year of Shunji, 1649, the criminal division reported to Chen Tiaoyuan that the generals of the Qing army who entered Sichuan were killing innocent people indiscriminately. As a last resort, large troops were used to suppress them. The people and thieves mixed together, and it was difficult to distinguish between jade and stone, or the whole city was wiped out, or kill men and keep women. Statistics show that more than 1 million people were massacred in Sichuan during the wars in the past few years. There are too many words to describe the horror. Lu Xun said, I looked up history and forgive me found that there is no chronology in this history, and the words benevolence, righteousness, and morality are written on each leaf crookedly. I couldn't sleep anyway, so I read carefully for half the night, and then I saw the words between the words, There were 2 words written all over the book, which were cannibalism. This is especially true for the history of the Qing Dynasty. Here Lu Xun commented, the Qing army entered the pass and slaughtered all the integrity of the Han people in the Ming Dynasty. Most of the loyal and brave people in the Ming Dynasty who had thoughts and dared to resist were killed, leaving behind mostly obedient slaves. Today we review the top 10 massacres of the Qing Dynasty, not to create hatred between the Han and the Manchus. After all, these things have nothing to do with today's Manchu friends. But we must remember history, not talk about war lightly, and not be easily fooled by anyone's so-called righteousness so as to avoid history repeating itself.